All right. Okay, guys. Today we're going to be covering culture and the role culture plays in sales, in recruiting, in building an organization, and building yourself. Okay, so a lot of this comes down to attracting success by who you become. Okay, but also, for those of you building an organization, even if it's just yourself or building it next year, it starts with you. Okay. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a story. And some of you guys already know this story, so sorry you're gonna have to hear repeat. But I want to give you a story of how this started for me. I've done well in sales. My first year doing pests, I did 900 accounts. The following year came into it, I had about 45 guys. Had I known what I know now, and more importantly, had I been who I am now, I would have had over 100 guys with the financial success I had. Okay. And so that's what we're going to be talking about is the culture side. So this a lot of this started last year with my mentorship, okay, with Chris Crone. I want to make this clear real quick. I'll give you guys a golden nugget. Culture is you define culture by how you invest in other people outside the business. That is how you build culture. Okay. So a lot of these things we do in-house and we practice what we preach. Okay. Brock works with me. We are actively doing this. And it's not a side gig. And I'll give you guys the inside scoop of exactly what we're doing. And you can steal that and implement or make your own twist on it. Okay. But culture, what Chris Crone taught me is how you invest in your people outside of the business. Okay. Investing in their fitness goals, their health, in caring about the relationship, telling them to go on a date night. Okay. Telling them to take more time to just meditate, reflect, whatever it is. Okay. Investing in your people. Okay. So this started for me when my mentor, Chris, told me to, hey, Nick, that's great. Go hit your $1 million target. Go hit your goal, but do it while building the relationships in your life and transforming your health. Okay. And at the time, I was so humble from my divorce. I didn't question at anything. I'm like, dude, this guy's got it. Like, I've got to take what he's telling me serious and actually implement it. And that right there is step one. Is the teacher appears when the student is willing. Okay. You could be the most successful person, but if the person hearing you is not ready for the advice, it doesn't matter. Okay. So he said to go do that. And I did take the challenge. And it was very difficult, but the amount of discipline that it took to achieve the goal is what transformed me into who I am today. Okay. So in the pursuit of massive goals, okay, and this is the great thing about pushing yourself and your people outside of just their financial goals, but the pursuit of those hard things, of the financial sales, the recruiting, the fitness, the health, the relationships, okay, the investments, the pursuit of all of that is wildly difficult, takes a massive amount of discipline, and the character required to do it is the beauty. That's the ultimate prize. Okay. And who you become in the process is the biggest thing. So Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about this principle that trajectory is more important than what you're actually doing. Okay. And who you become in the process is the primary focus. So if I set a goal to, hey, I want to, be for my fitness goals, it'd be 210 pounds, over 210, which I've now achieved. Did it pretty quick, and then be sub 10% body fat. I have not achieved. Brock, help me out. On my way. But that's the goal, right? Specific. But the more important thing is in the likelihood to actually achieve the goal is seeing yourself becoming the person. So what does that mean on the fitness side? I've always judged bodybuilders. Okay. I've always thought it's so stupid. It's vain. Okay. But when I understood this principle, I started envisioning myself and seeing myself as like a pro athlete or a bodybuilder. Okay. Because I knew if I could see myself and who I'm becoming, achieving that goal would be much easier. Okay. If your goal is to make, Brock and I were talking to a guy who wanted to get a golden door. That's an identity based goal. Okay. And which is much more powerful than sell 700K in revenue. If he focused on the 700K revenue, can he achieve it? Yes. but his likelihood, if he's going for the golden door because it's attached to his identity, is much higher. Okay. So in the pursuit of those things, there will be transformation. And you guys know our mantra at Excel is we don't teach tactics, we teach transformation. Okay. And the painful thing is you're not going to see overnight successes from this. It's a compounding game. Warren Buffett talks about how the eighth wonder of the world is not a location, it's compound interest. Okay. So what Chris taught me, who's making multiple nine figures per year, love seeing Will on the treadmill, who's making multiple nine figures per year on his way to becoming a billionaire while having a successful family and a phenomenal health and body. What was I just saying? Who you become in the process is the big thing. Okay. Now here's the compounding of your results. So everything you do now and all the efforts and strides to achieve these goals, they compound on each other, which means compound interest is a slow, but it doesn't grow linearly. Okay. So you can't, and this plays into momentum. Okay. You can't look at results and say, hey, I'm selling 5 accounts a week and say that's going to maintain. If you're developing yourself and your people, it will not be a linear track record. Okay. If you keep developing yourself and your people and you're investing outside of these other areas, it will compound over time. So it's an exponential curve. Okay. With all the leaders I've seen, all these different stories of businesses and companies and salespeople where the problem is people. Okay. I was with Cardone and Brandon Dawson says the path up to $1 billion, the number one problem is people. And sub $1 million, your problem is people. Well, how do we attract better people? That's the whole game of business and life, is attracting better people. And it's by becoming a better person. So if you can attract better people by who you've become, you can run any business, your numbers, your sales teams, everything will grow. So at a micro level, for even a sales rep, just watching this, most people that are striving to achieve like a higher level, and anybody in our program should be and is, there's a lot more that they're trying to achieve in the coming years. Okay. And you have to be able to see that version of yourself and tell the story of who you're becoming. Okay. And if you're in a shitty situation, it's even better, because I was myself from divorce and everything I'd been through. I was able to see the narrative of this man who had been abased and humbled, and the comeback story, right? The rise to success. And what had changed my mantra for success was in every asset of my life, having it all. Okay. And people are attracted, your clients, your prospects, your recruits, people you work with, they're attracted to people that have high confidence, but they're also attracted to people that have something that they don't have that they want. Okay. People are attracted to people that have things that they don't have. It could be the energy, it could be how they communicate, it could be their physical stature, it could be how nice they are, it could be their assets, how much money they've made. So the pursuit of having all these things, what I'm telling you is it's cool to check off a box, but one, if you're shooting to just hit sales targets, that's great. Your why is your fuel for doing great things. And if your why is to push yourself and fall in love with the process, and you can see who you're becoming to inspire other people, you're ultimately like, there's going to be an end target there for what's going to happen in future years. But what's going to happen is you start achieving it like an abnormal amount of success, whether it's sales, recruiting, whatever it is. Okay. Because of the strides you're taking. People see the trajectory. Okay. They might not be able to articulate it. They might not be able to pin it down, but what they see is your trajectory, and you'll feel it too. And so if you get nothing else from this call, be obsessed about your trajectory and where you're going. What you're doing is good, but see the trajectory. Okay. Atomic Habits, again, going back to that book, James Clear talks about going to the gym. We just had a great call with one of our clients. He's on the call right now, who's going to the gym, twice a week, and which is great. And going from that to 5 times a week is a jump. It's a jump. And when you look at someone like Will hitting the treadmill on a mastermind call as we speak, it can be intimidating seeing what other guys do. It's like, I can't do that. The trick is to make little incremental improvements in strides into those areas, okay? To start getting the positive feedback, positive wins. And for some people, it's just showing up to the gym for 10 minutes and then leaving, okay? So reducing the barrier by just taking micro actions, all right? And so part of this stems too, guys, in breaking down the limiting beliefs. The number one excuse for why we can't achieve something and what we're trying to, like, let's say we're trying to hit the gym, grow our physical strength and have a better relationship with the kids, with family, friends, new acquaintances, whoever it is, and also hit your sales goals. The number one excuse always comes down to, I don't have enough time. Okay. The desire's there, but I don't have enough time. And that excuse always comes down to, it's not a high enough of a priority. And so this comes back into time blocking and outlining in your weekly planning sessions and monthly planning sessions. You start with what your targets are, okay? And this is why you go back to the yearly goals. What am I setting out to do on the year? Where do I want to be, okay? Brock and I just had a call with another guy yesterday, again, that wanted to have a golden door. And I said, well, what else is your goal? Like, what else are you trying to achieve? And what I'm trying to unpack there is, if there's more to it, there's more sustenance to why he's doing that and who he's becoming, I'll believe his likelihood of actually achieving that. Okay. You may say, hey, I want to have I want to get somewhere with my financial target, my sales target or recruiting target, whatever it is. And it's going to take me a rocket ship to get there. It's this lofty goal. Well, the fuel that you put in, your Toyota Camry and a rocket ship's a little different. And so you have to make sure your fuel is big enough and it's sustainable. Okay. And what I'm trying to tell you guys is you need to unlock that by striving to do hard shit and falling in love with it. So with that, I'm going to kind of give you guys an application of what we do at Sparta and what we're building and how we're attracting success very well. Okay. And it starts from the top down. And it started with me last year going all into myself. Okay. I intentionally did not recruit a lot of people. In fact, just one person. Okay. And he had to beg me to come work with me because I was reluctant. I was crushing it. I was already making $250,000 per month selling solar in Utah. I didn't have to relocate. I had my fitness down. I had a great relationship going. I had time with my boys. Okay. Time was a little bit pressed with the family, I'll be honest. But I was so dialed in, I told people no. All right. And that's one of the big lessons I learned in the last 5 years is the importance of telling no. You got to say no to so many things. Okay. If you're saying yes to even 50% of things, you're going to be chasing too many things and you're going to be completely scattered. So you got to know what you want, be very crystal clear and say no to most stuff that comes in your way. Okay. So I went all in because I saw this narrative of, okay, I'm going to push to do what this mentor, like a big leap of faith told me to do. I'm going to invest in my health, my relationships, and my wealth. Okay. Active income and passive income, both. And I'm going to crush my targets. And, fast forward to now, I hit everything. Okay. I hit all my goals. It's one thing to go make $1 million. That's cool. But to do it while achieving other things for me was a massive win because part of my story, guys, was Nick, you can't have a successful family, and I had failed. I was divorced. Okay. Divorced, 3 kids. You can't have a successful family and be a good businessman. You can't have great health and be a good father. You got to pick and choose, right? I was put in a box. And if you guys are anything like me, which I know you are, like you hate being put in a box. You hate being kind of told who you are, what you can and can't do. So you guys may resonate with some of this. It might be a little bit different for you, but it's important that you tap in to that superpower that you have and the story that you're telling yourself that you'll tell to other people, whether it's on stages, whether it's at events, collecting awards, in recruiting meetings, business meetings, whatever it is, you have to be able to see that. If you can't see the vision for yourself, how are you going to have a vision to inspire other people? Okay. So a lot of this I'm telling you guys is attracting more people and success. If you're like, hey, I just want to sell and crush it. Well, guess what? Sales is influence. Okay. And this is all the same thing. If you put me in a room with the same persuasion ability and knowledge about the industry, but you take Nick who has developed personally and Nick who has not, I'll kick his ass 10 times out of 10. Okay. You put me in a room with me 3 years ago, I will crush the old Nick Nossman on sales. Crush. Okay. There's energy. Sales is infectious. Enthusiasm is contagious. Okay. And people feel your energy. I talk about this all the time on our podcast that, you're selling, you're influencing, you're leading, you're pouring from your cup. But if your cup is empty, what the hell are you pouring? If you're not investing in yourself every day, if you're going to the gym once or twice a week, well, you're filling your cup once or twice a week, right? And so for every person, this is different. But one thing that is correlated to this is exercise is massive. I can't reinforce this enough. I don't care who you are. It's an essential element to filling your cup, okay? With endorphins, with your energy, with your body, and pushing yourself to you're teaching your body that your mind is in control, your spirit is in control. As you break down your muscles, you work hard, right? So, anyways, fast forwarding to today, all right? What we do now in our company culture that you guys can copy paste, do your own version, and where a lot of this we're rolling out as we speak, but this has been a vision that's been building out, is we run what's called, so Sparta Solar is our company, and we have what's called the Spartan Club, okay? And we have an investor club, we have a fitness club, Brock helps lead that, and we have a book club and a leadership club, all right? So all these things are tailored to invest in our people, okay? And this culture is what attracts, okay? This is what help attracts and retain people, okay? What people always ask, well, you teach your people too much, you give them everything, then why are they going to stay with you? They're just going to leave. It's a culture problem, and it's all over the industry. So our industry with solar, with pest control, most of these industries are very saturated, okay? Which means they're commoditized. Commoditization is a race to the bottom, meaning it's just what's your pay line, what's your red line, what's your price per watt. That is a trap, okay? That is you being controlled by a commoditized system. So to get yourself out of that rat race, you have to differentiate your business model, which means you have to differentiate your people, which starts from you, okay? This can be done on an organizational level, but it starts with you. So you have to become the person that attracts better people. We want a better business, better team, better sales team, better stats. We need better people. We need to become a better person, okay? Now, to translate this back into sales, there's three big things that matter with influence, guys. It's the 3 Ps, okay? It's your people knowledge, your product knowledge, and who you are as a person, okay? Product is your passion and your understanding, your conviction of your product, okay? People knowledge is just general sales and influence, understanding of maximizing, minimizing, building rapport, asking questions. That's people knowledge. If you're amazing at that, but you have very little product knowledge, can you still sell? Absolutely. You can still crush. People knowledge is so massive. But again, telling the story of myself 3 years ago, Nick Nosmano 3 years ago had all that people knowledge, had a lot of the product knowledge. The difference with who I am now is the person. Okay. It's the person behind the microphone that's communicating. You guys know the nonverbal, paraverbal, and verbal communication. Obviously, which one's bigger, right? It's nonverbal. Think about it. In fact, years back, it was 55% of all communications nonverbal. This more studies coming out are saying that number keeps going up, closer to 65% or higher. So one, if you're doing phone calls, get on Zoom, get in person. That's the advantage we have in our industry, is getting in person. But more importantly, think about that. They do more listening with their eyes, guys. They're reading you. They're seeing you, right? And think about personal integrity when you set out goals to do things that are hard and you live it out, okay? People can see representation, not just on how fit you are, how buff. I'm not talking about that. That's big. But more importantly, they can see it in your eyes if you're doing something that is pushing yourself, that is hard, okay? And you know you're doing it to develop character. If the sales goals came easy, you hit all your targets very easy, okay, and you had great success, but you're not going to appreciate it unless there's a battle, okay? There's no victory without triumph. There's no triumph without, opposition. And so opposition, sometimes God's going to give it to you. Sometimes you got to give it to yourself. I've learned that, hey, the greatest pain in my life has actually caused the greatest success because of the development. I had a decade of development that happened over the course of 2 years. Okay. And so you don't need to put yourself in a hellish situation, right? But you can have the perspective I had, hey, everything doesn't happen to you, it's happening for you. But you can also, this is why I choose to discipline myself and do hard things, because I understand that on the other side of the pain is all the growth. Okay. And so when you start thinking this way, it's very hard to lose. Okay. And that all the failures, all the things, if you can see this narrative in this story, if it's hard, I become a better person. We always admire this, like if you guys are like me, you imagine like an 80-year-old version of yourself with all this patience and like the very genuine, loving, heartfelt, just a good person with all these great attributes, humility, confidence, love. But to have that character, you have to go through stuff. And so why, when we go through the hard, are we complaining about it? So embrace it. And some of you guys may see I wear this thing on my wrist. My mentor gave it to me. It says, everything goes my way. Okay. And it's this perspective that if the people talk about the glass half full, half empty, I talk about the glass 10% full. Okay. But doing these hard things, you start training and callousing your mind. I mean, I think David Goggins here, okay? You start callousing your mind to do hard things and appreciate the grind. And the point of building this personal culture is you're developing a human where your cup is already filled. You can go into a day, have 6 appointments on the calendar. They all go to complete shit. But because you invested in yourself physically, you won a mental battle, you learned something new, you grew, and it's usually in the morning that you're doing this, okay? You invest in relationships, whatever it is, in some way. If you have nobody, you got your big man. If you're developing yourself every day, you've already won the day. So anything that comes, any negotiation, any meeting, any consultation, it's all bonus. It's all excess. You see that mentality, guys, is the abundant mindset. It starts with you. It's not your partners, it's not your partner, your spouse, it's not your business partners. It's you. It starts with you and addressing it and pushing yourself and start winning internally. Okay. All right. So this isn't mumbo bumbo stuff. This is big boy business stuff. Okay. So remember that quote I told you: culture is defined by how you invest in people outside your culture, or outside your business. So how are you investing in yourself? Okay. And so to put this in place, again, telling the story with Sparta. So we have those 4 clubs, all right? But then we also have a thing where I've set the standard. When I cut a paycheck to our people, I tell them 20% goes to investing in yourself, and 20% is going to go towards investing in hard assets that cash flow. Okay. That's it. The rest of your money, what you do, donation, whatever, that's for you to figure out, taxes, all that. But 40% of everything I cut them, I'm teaching them to go towards asset that cash flow, and then also into themselves. Okay. And to put this in perspective, all right, personal development, you guys have invested in coaching. This has the highest ROI of any money that you'll spend, because let's say you guys make $1 million and you invest 300,000 of that into an asset that has a 20% return, or let's just say 100K, 20% return. So you're making 20,000 and that compounds. Okay. Now take somebody who made $1 million and invest 300,000 into personal development. Okay. They learn how to go make $5 million by who they have become, by surrounding themselves with proximity with greater people. That's the secret. Okay. And to get high level people, they ain't free. You got to pay. So you pay attention. You guys heard me say that. And you guys have done this on a micro level. I want to tell you guys and encourage you guys. I've told this with Aaron and a few of you. this is not enough. Okay. And that should be interesting, me telling you on a coaching program that this is still not enough. You guys need to be investing yourselves, going to events, going to meetings, going to finding other coaching that's going to push you physically. You know, we've got guys that can help push you in our program, but that's not the primary focus. Go get a fitness coach, pay for it. Okay. When I saw my mentor that he had 26 other coaches, I was like, wow, I didn't have one, you know? And so you think it's like, oh, it's so humble for them to do that. It's not humble. It's just smart. It's just smart. So, take this serious and, you know, set your targets and your goals and be looking for people that can help push you in those areas of your life and surround yourself with those people. And then until you start becoming that person. Okay. And then you'll have this magnetic energy to you. Okay. Last week, guys, I had 5 solar appointments, a lot of recruiting meetings. Everything went my way. I had 100% close rate in everything. Everybody said yes to me. I've never had that much success before in my life. There's momentum, yes, but a lot of it stems from who I've become. It's that energy, okay? And so you need to see the long road. This happened for me very fast. Things can change very fast. 6 months is you can completely transform like your trajectory with who you are, but it takes that time. And so I want you guys to see that as a marathon and challenge every one of you guys to push yourselves in multiple facets of your life. Okay. And I know it's going to be hard. That's hopefully you get the point that it's hard to do the financial, all the things you got with your business and your sales, your school, all that, plus develop yourself and everything else you're trying to work on. I know it's hard. That's the point. Fall in love with the hard, fall in love with the process, forget the prize. If you can do that, the prize is going to be really big. Okay. So Eric Thomas always talks about the process, not the prize, with lions versus gazelles. Gazelles are just, you know, they're just walking around living life, and then the only time they run is when they're running from. Okay, lions, the difference, fundamental difference is lions run towards. They're intentional. They're not reactive. They're proactively hunting. The gazelle runs when it's forced to. Okay. So you guys got to understand what you want and reverse engineer with the coaches and make the plan, the micro actions. Okay. We're here to hold you accountable to financial and sales goals, although our coaches are very well rounded in a lot of assets, from fitness to investments to recruiting, leadership, building organizations. We have absolute like rainmakers. Okay. Yes, we're here to help you with all that. That's part of the vision for this, is transform who you are to attract more success. Okay. I'm gonna kind of end on that note and open up for any open Q&A in about a minute. So just be ready if you guys have any questions that you want to chime in. Be ready for those. But I would also challenge you guys, if you think of any questions, challenge you guys to write out who you want, who, like your old version of yourself and the attributes you have. Okay, imagine that person and imagine the lifestyle you have, and get very clear with that. Okay. And then I want you guys to imagine yourself in 10 years as well. Okay. What we strive to do in a year, okay, is like, if you, what's the quote? We drastically overestimate what we can do in a year, but we also underestimate how much we can do in a decade, in 10. We overestimate how much we can do in 1. We underestimate how much we can do in 10. Okay. You need to be thinking long-term. Okay. Now this, to show you how relevant this is, Warren Buffett taught some of you guys this. When he goes to invest something, he doesn't say what's going to be working the next 4 or 5 years. Okay. I mean, he buys something only if he's going to have it for 10 years. So if you guys do cryptocurrency, I love you. Cool. Not trying to judge you. But I've never met one guy from doing crypto. It's like, oh yeah, the next 10, 15 years is gonna be huge. So that's besides the point. But the point of this is think long-term, because the reason we don't invest in ourselves like this is because we're too impatient, because we want results now. And you'll get it. You'll get it now. Okay. But what I'm telling you is you need to be obsessed with the long-term wins. Okay. And that's who you're becoming. Because then you tap into the exponential game, the compounding game. Compound interest, what I was telling you guys, applies not just to money. Okay. It applies to everything you're doing in your life. And you're compounding yourself. This is why my mentor and these other guys will spend like hundreds of thousands and millions, tens of millions in mentorship. Alex Hermosi is on pace to become one of the youngest billionaires outside of owning like a massive business like Amazon. Okay. He spent $100,000 for 4 hours with Grant Cardone. You see the same trend with all of these guys. So again, set the targets for what you're trying to do, and be willing to invest your assets into growing yourself. All right. That's how you know you're serious. And I know you guys are serious because you've invested in this program, and I'm happy for you. I'm stoked for you. And literally just by handing somebody a check, there's going to be development just from doing that process. So congratulations. But don't stop. Don't stop. Keep doing it. Okay. Keep doing it. And in the goal should be the attributes, the character you want, the life that you want, but also the skills that you need to develop. Prioritize those. Okay. If you're lacking, the persuasion skills, obviously you're here, right? If you're lacking discipline, you're here. If you're like, hey, I don't know where to go for real estate investing, don't just wait for it to fall in your lap, right? Start seeking out who is the best, who offers this, and you'll make strategic moves that way. Okay, it's like proactive life. I've met people who are reactive, that when things come, people that they know coming in their situation, tell them about something. It's not a good way to live. Okay. So be proactive about it, be intentional about it, and you'll start manifesting a lot more in your life. Things will start falling in place for you. Okay. Okay. I'll open up for any questions from you guys. You guys can unmute. Coaches, if you have any feedback too, or stories, testimonies, and any of that, I'm open.
One thing I'd add, Nick, is um, you're talking about doing something that most people think is like you got to sacrifice your health and your relationships to achieve a lot of other things. And I think the biggest misconception there is the amount of time we have. We have more than enough time to get all of those things in priority and make those things work. Uh, just you last year talking about having your boys with you, doing it on your own. You still had enough time to balance those things. There's a lot of talk in the space of not worrying about balance, but I think what we fail to realize and where our lack is coming in is knowing that we have more than enough time to get things done and get things done at a high level. It's just how you can strategize and prioritize that time.
Yeah. And to add to that, Brock, the key to buying your time back is people. It's leadership. And this goes back to investing. You can't afford not to invest in your people, because not investing into yourself, you can't afford not to invest in yourself. If you don't invest in yourself, you will not be able to attract the people to buy your time back. You'll be bottlenecked at, I don't have enough time. I'm choosing between my work and my kids. Dial everything back a little bit, okay, with the work. Start investing in yourself. Okay. My girlfriend is in an amazing spot with her business right now, crushing with her nail company. And the next move for her was actually scaling back on her time to invest more in herself, to not just work in the business, but on the business, work on herself and on the business. It's the long-term play. Doesn't mean she's not out there pumping and doing nail clients day to day. Absolutely. But sometimes you have to slow down to move faster. Okay. I like that, Brock. That's awesome. Anyone else want to feedback, questions, implementation, limiting beliefs related to this? What things come to mind? Maybe what things come to mind, like, okay, hey, how does this apply to me? Or, this sounds great now, but how do I actually take action on this? Or, I feel like a chicken with my head cut off. I know what that's like. Where do you start? What questions are on your guys' mind? Give you guys a minute.
I have a question for you.
Let's hear, Joe.
Earlier you were talking about the three P's, the project, people, and product.
Mhm.
What are some like good books slash resources to learn like more people stuff?
Great question. Influenced by Robert Cialdini is one of the best books I've ever read. It's very in-depth, very like scientific, very fascinating. It's a book you could read 10 times and still not master. How to Win Friends and Influence People is also a classic. Okay, a high level, just like overview on how to win people over. Great book. Okay. And one of my favorite quotes from that book was Dale
What was
Carnegie.
sorry?
What How to Win Friends Influence People by Dale Carnegie,
Hey,
and then Influenced by Robert Cialdini. Um, yeah. And then if you guys have other ones that you want to contribute to that too. I think another one would be the Go Giver and The Greatest Salesman in the World. Those are both great books. You understand true influence, what it looks like. It's the service mindset of a great salesperson. And yeah, if you develop that side of the selfless side, you remove commission breath, you're there to serve and impact, you'll crush. You have a distinct advantage when you're there and you can see things through, and you have no attachment to the sale, right? No attachment. I'm always reminding myself, no attachment, no attachment to any commitment, any rep, like signing with me, no, nothing, no expectations, zero. It's a skill you have to develop, and it starts from you got to be okay internally. Like, okay, you could literally be broke in your bank and still be good, not need to be desperate because you trust. You've seen a system you trust. Okay. And you're there to impact and serve, and when you give, you get back. Just how the universe goes. Okay. And so, anyways, a couple book recommendations. Anyone else got a recommendation for Joe?
Not so much recommendation. I think for me is just it's a good reminder that happiness comes from growth. And as males, Jordy's in here too, but we're wired to complete tasks, right? And as we do that, as we're on that journey of accomplishing our goals and leveling up, the happiness comes in that journey. And I think some guys have the issue of postponing their happiness to, hey, I'll be happy when I hit a certain level, or when I certain level of income or certain spot in my life. And yeah, great reminder that as we're improving ourselves, we got to enjoy that journey, and we'll find happiness in that.
I love that. I love it, Trent. That was a huge limiting belief I used to have, was when I get there, I'll be happy, right? And I remember hearing all these stories about Olympic athletes when they arrived and won, their gold medal, and they stopped training. They were seriously depressed. Like, this is a continuing problem with Olympic athletes. And it's because it's the pursuit of excellence and pursuit of who you become, okay, that also brings fulfillment. Okay. So when people talk about retirement, it makes me want to gag. I'm like, you missed the point. Okay. It's like you're escaping your entire life to arrive at a point when now I'm okay to not work. Right. You've missed the point. So if you're coasting in life, guys, like imagine being on a bike on a hill. If you're coasting, you're going down. If you're not actively doing hard things and challenging yourself, you're going down. Okay. The pedaling to action, the momentum is the fulfillment and the achievement. Why do guys that hit the billion mark keep going? From some people's lens, it's just they're greedy. They're greedy. They want more. They're just not satisfied. But I'm telling you, it's they are addicted to the dopamine high of achievement. Okay. And so yeah, I love that. And this starts from little wins. Like, you can take somebody from like the point of complete crap and transform their life by little wins. And so this is why, if you guys have heard me talking about tracking your wins and reporting those to the coaches, okay, you're getting your mind to programming on the positive and the winning. Okay. It's huge. Also, there's a distinction. I was telling someone else with win tracking, to not just like, oh, hey, I went to the store, bought food. Like that's not a win. That's like you did a task, and that's actually, you shouldn't be proud about that. You should delegate that. If you're making over 200K, you should be hiring that crap out. So what we'll do a whole nother training on just duplication and delegation for, anybody over, 150 to 200,000 should be absolutely doing certain things that I didn't even know to do, including cooking, cleaning, all that stuff, grocery shopping. We live in a world where we can leverage businesses to buy back our time without, having a fortune to pay somebody. Um, any other questions or input, guys? Cool. Cool. Okay. Love it. Well, thanks for joining us on the call today, guys. On your coaching calls, I'll give you guys an assignment to think about who you're becoming with all these goals, all these targets you have. I want you to write down who the person that you're striving to become. Okay. Who's that person? Who's the leader? Okay. And imagine future conversations you're having with other people and why they work with you. And imagine yourself, being interviewed of, you were so successful and it was because of XYZ. Start telling yourself that story of where you're at and where you're going to be. And again, the lower you are, the more ugly. I can tell you from personal experience, thumbs up, the better the story. The more hardship along the way, the better the story. So start telling the story. What is the story? Start laying out that framework, who you're striving to become, who you are now, and where you want to be, and how you want to empower other people. That's where the greatness comes from within, is your desire to impact. That's the biggest thing of influence, is your desire to impact. So what about your story? What about who you're becoming? How do you want to inspire people? Your guys' story is not going to be like mine. And that's okay. That's the beauty, is it's going to be different. It's going to be completely different. But a correlating theme with everyone's story is triumph. So what is the triumph over? Okay. So I want you guys to start telling yourself that narrative of the struggles, the shit, and start being grateful for that, because it makes for a better story. Cool. All right. Love you guys. This awesome call. Thanks for the input. Excited to get more input next week, and come ready with questions, and let's hit it. Let's go crush it. Thank you guys. Adios.
Nick.
See ya.
Peace.